why don't you tell the people at home who the heck Clint Nielson is?
Yeah, first I'll say thanks, Devan, for having me. It's an honor to think of me first. You're probably trying to set the bar low, though, so that as you're going, it's getting better every time. Some about me is I've been in the nursing home industry for a couple of years now. I'm, married with kids, and as you can see with my decor, big into basketball. And yeah, no, I've always, since I've been doing this, been very passionate and interested in the operations of the nursing home and kind of how the whole company works from every position. It's a super fun industry.
We're both nursing home administrators. And when Clint says that he has a couple of kids, you have 4 kids,
I have
right?
4 kids.
With inflation, that's like 12 kids in the 70s.
When you start with twins like I did, it kind of happens.
Yeah, I have 2 kids. Actually, a little context just for everybody at home. So Clint and I, we tried to have this podcast last week and my wife went into labor. So here we are again. I just recently had my second, but I remember at the beginning when my wife and I were thinking about starting a family, we were like, it'd be great to have twins right out the gate. And then after our first, we were like, actually, the biggest blessing in our lives is that we did not start with twins because we had all we could handle with those, with that first one. So you started with twins. You got 4 kids. Okay. And you're a nursing home administrator. How did you originally get into being a nursing home administrator?
Since I started college, wanted to be in hospital administration. It felt like a passion to be in healthcare, but my skills and interests in what I wanted to do to work were business. So my first thought went to hospitals. And then my first job, as I was finishing up a master's program in a hospital, I got this sinking feeling that I was bored. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And again, obviously very important work, very good work. It just wasn't for me. My dad was a small business owner. And as I started to learn more about nursing homes, they're kind of like operating your own small to moderate sized business. And so some of my, growing up seeing my dad work that way in his own company kind of drew me to that interest of something smaller, but at the same time, something where if you want to make a change, you can make a change that day in the nursing home. And I think that was a lot more exciting to me than my initial thoughts in the hospital. So yeah, it just kind of drew me in. And ever since I started to think I wanted to be into nursing homes, it hasn't stopped,
2 things. First is, for those of you who want to get into nursing home administration, I feel like anybody who wants to should have an opportunity to do it because it is a lot of times different than what you would expect nursing home administration to be. A lot of times people will think that it's like you're here, with like a pink sweater, residents who just like are there sipping pina coladas and all that stuff. And then you actually get into it. And I think it's funny that you mentioned that like you felt like you might be bored with hospital administration. If there's any hospital administrators who are listening to this and they're laughing because like it's a crazy job as well. Running a nursing home is also anything but boring, right? You have to do a whole bunch of stuff. And so I think if you're looking to not be bored, nursing home administration is a great place to be. So, but you, Clint, you actually wanted to be in this industry, which I feel like is actually a little different from the story that I hear a lot of administrators tell. A lot of people just fall into it, kind of just offhandedly, right? So you wanted to be in the industry for, at least in healthcare, from the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah, for me, healthcare was always, an interest since I was 18. I had a family event where I actually had someone close to me pass away quickly, and just to kind of be in the hospital with with him through that process, I saw the things I liked and maybe thought could be better. Since then, it hasn't really left my mind that I wanted to be in healthcare.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, no, just the nursing homes where every day you're doing something different. You don't quite know what's going to be there. There's unique challenges. There's unique, awesome blessings and opportunities. Like you see the best, you see the worst, and it's an honor, to be a part of that. I do want to go back and say to, like Devan was saying, all the hospital administrators, I'm sure if I had stuck it out, I would think it was more interesting. So I apologize to any of you
No,
guys
don't
or
apologize.
gals.
Don't apologize, darn it. This isn't a corporate podcast.
All right. But I promise you, nursing homes are more interesting. Maybe not always good interesting, right? But they are always more interesting, I think, than about anything you could be doing.
let's jump into that because that's
Yeah.
like what I want. That's what I want the meat of this
Yeah.
interview to
Yeah.
be, right? So like talk to me about
I'll
when you
hold
talk
back
about
the
interesting.
apologies.
Hold back the apologies, darn it. What was your welcome to nursing home administration moment?
Yeah, I think part of it was I just had got my license as an administrator and had a short time where I was training to be so an AIT, right, administrator in training, and just right after, I thought I knew kind of what to expect in that process. That was very much a protected space, though. The first week, we have a situation with the heating in the building. There's an issue with heating, and it ends up becoming a big ordeal because at the same time, there ends up being a sewage issue that are both pretty severe, like maintenance issues in the building. So all of- I'm humbled immediately. All the arrogance I was maybe developing, I can do this. I got this understood. I was thrown a situation I knew nothing about the plant operations of a large building. So to be in there and to be trying to call people and begging and convincing them to come out and bring the parts and being there in the night when they finally came in with the right boiler parts to fix our heating. Look, it was scary, it was stressful, but it was exciting to be able to fix that problem.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how you do this AIT, you do this administrator in training, like preceptorship, and it's never how it actually is.
Yeah.
You know, I did my AIT in Utah, and the building that I did my AIT at was perfectly run. Right. We had no challenges. At least that's the way I view it now. And then they send me off to Colorado. And the first building I go into, I'm still in AIT at this point, but I'm helping out of the building. It was having an issue with payroll because it was a recent acquisition. And so I have like 30 to 40 angry employees in my office every single day that I'm at the building. And people are just screaming at me to get it done. And I have no idea what's going on, right? Because my AIT was like, the department head does this, right? The dietary manager does this. And so it was like learning all these things. But then as soon as I got in the job, it was, oh, like, actually, I'm a fireman, right? I put out fires. That's what I do. And so there was the second half of my AIT, it was like all that. It was like, okay, I guess people scream at me, right?
Yeah.
That's what an admin does. Those AITs are deceptive. But at the same time, it's way more fun to run the building
Yeah.
than be the second in command. Even though the second in command has no power, they do nothing,
It's
right?
vice president, right?
It's vice president. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I was just going to add that the best buildings probably are the ones where you can show up as an AIT and think it's all perfect, because I'm sure they're not. I'm sure there's challenges, but when they can mask it well, I mean, things are running well enough that those challenges are just handled, by the top. That's the best feeling, because it is frightening when you see the administrator like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
see them stressed out or they don't know, you're like, oh no, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. For
But
real.
it's a battle. So a huge shout out to all the administrators and DONs and leaders in nursing homes that make it seem like everything's always under control, because we
Yeah,
know it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, what a great ruse that they've got going
Yeah.
because hopefully people think that about me, but internally I'm screaming. So talk to me about you jumping into your first building, right? It sounds like there were some maintenance issues. What were the other issues going on that, you walked into? And just to add some context while you're thinking about that, a lot of times as young administrators, and we're both young administrators, right? You never get the good building right out the gate, right? You never get the building where everything's going smoothly. A lot of times your first building is a turnaround effort, right? They're having issues financially, clinically, culturally. And so what was it like for you when you jumped into your first building?
Yeah, there was, again, a lot of great people, with good intentions. A lot of people who'd been there a while, but going through, in a similar situation. They had recently been through an acquisition. There's just so many questions. There's so much uncertainty. No matter how well the receiving company does it, there just is going to be. And then there's lack of systems. Like, do we do it the old way? Do we do it this way? Is there a new way? I don't know. Maybe I just won't do it for now. And that's how problems pile up. So yeah, I think there was a lot of just some disorganization as associated with that. And yeah, there was always a battle with census for sure. And just with consistent, clinical outcomes. Again, a lot of that just came from the organization of the systems. But a lot of my big focus again was on those two things, was helping make sure everything was running properly and at the same time doing what I could to get that census up. As many patients to want to come to my nursing home, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So census, right, is key. It drives your revenue. The more people you have in your building, the more you get reimbursed to you through their insurance. So a lot of times as a young administrator, that's the biggest thing to worry about in terms of financial outcomes. You have some of the best stories when it comes to growing census, and I want to make sure that we tell everybody about this three-legged dog. I'll preface it with you go into these buildings, right? They're not having any financial success, and you have to turn it around. And the way you do that is you grow census, you attract people to your building, and sometimes you get a little creative. And in your case, you got creative. Tell me about that story.
So you market a lot, right? You call around maybe to other nursing homes, other communities, other hospitals to see if anyone's looking for a change of scenery. And I found an individual, but their concern was they wanted to be close to their dog. As Devan said, they're three-legged dog. And again, it's not really good to have animals live at a facility, right? They can visit, but to live at a facility isn't good for reasons, right? We can go into those if we want, but you guys can use your
Infection
imagination.
prevention. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they have fleas, right? Like nobody wants fleas in your building. You have bed bugs in your building. You're not sleeping for 3 weeks because you're going to
You're
be
at the
like,
building
yeah,
fixing it,
you're at the
yeah.
building. Yeah.
And so the compromise was I offered to bring in and watch this three-legged dog into my home, my personal home, while this individual was at, my nursing home, and they agreed. Luckily, I have a saint of a wife who went along with it because it's always a battle to say, "Hey, we're gonna bring home a 14-year-old three-legged dog." It worked out, the kids were excited, right? They got a rental dog, you know?
No,
But this
this
is
just shows, Clint. This just shows that like you have like some aggressive optimism because I don't know anybody else who would have done that. And I remember being on a call where somebody said that you had done this, and I had to go off camera and just mute my microphone for like 5 minutes because I was just rolling when I heard this. Like to get to grow census, Clint is adopting three-legged dogs and taking them home to his family. I thought it was so
these
funny.
I don't know, these are the differences it makes on who's going to maybe outgrow census versus other competition. So I don't know how far you're willing to go. There's other things like we'd do late night admission, so we'd have to do everything to prepare, and I would be there too. Weekend admissions, and I'm driving the van to who knows where to pick someone up. But yeah, I guess the dog story is a good way to highlight the feeling. Devan, I guess, is going to be humble about it, but he's the king at growing census, and he did a little more organized than me. He did it without having to take in dogs, so he had it down. But Devan
I
had a lot of
adopted
tricks.
0 dogs. That is one metric. If we're going for lowest score on that, then that is one metric that I beat you in. I adopted 0 dogs,
But I
but
I remember Devan had incredible. I've seen and heard of incredible turnarounds with his own census. I think what just came down to it, if I recall, is you're just super organized. You recorded every conversation and you recorded when you talked to them. By having a system like that, you know when to follow up and you know how to follow up right. So I give Devan kudos to that. I'm a little less organized, so that's why I have to make up for it with dogs.
no, that's super kind, Clint. I walked into a similar situation, right? I think 50% of my staff turned over, and they turned over in the first 3 weeks. You definitely feel like you are the captain of a sinking ship at that point, and
Of any acquisition, again, no matter how it's handled, good or bad, people panic, people switch. It's just, I think it's just that how it goes.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
no antidote for that when a company buys another company.
You had a unique challenge where you were at for your first building. You were in a pretty remote location. You weren't in a big city. You weren't. I've been in big cities. Every building I've run, I've been like in a kind of a hub. But you were in a remote location, and I think one of the things that's so difficult is a nursing home is really as good as the people that are in it, right? And so recruiting has got to just be your biggest focus. What was it like out there? How did you recruit top talent?
Yeah, well, you got to recognize that everyone knows everyone, and because of that, I think the best way is just ask people who are already working there, like, hey, who are your friends? Well, they used to work here? Great, because it feels like the few healthcare companies there are in remote locations, there's a good chance someone's worked for most of them who's in the industry. So they've maybe worked there before, or they know you, they know a lot about the building before. So I was just big in establishing those relationships with, that happens organically as you're working, but as you get those relationships with your team, you start asking them about their friends and who used to work here. And then you go talk to them. You just have those conversations. You just be open and easy to approach and transparent. And I feel like that's what helps me to be able to always have good talent in there is just by just talking. You just got to talk a lot. And again, you got to be respectful and good to everyone. You should be anyway, but in a small town, if you're not, everyone's going to know about it by next weekend. So you really feel it if you're having poor negative interactions with people. So you gotta make sure you're always, being respectful and positive. It'll bite
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I think the biggest things were, especially when I was just starting out, I just had such a lack of experience and knowledge that some people were nervous that, oh, you're running the nursing home. But when I asked you this question, you had no idea about that. And so I
Yeah.
definitely had those experiences. Because again, for better or for worse, I just say I don't know. I should probably learn some tactful, better responses than I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm working on. But I think that scared away some people initially. They're like, oh, maybe I won't work for there.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That I
Devan's the master salesman, a communicator. Maybe offline, he'll teach me a thing or two about the
I
appropriate response. I don't know.
no, I still say a lot of I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have not gotten a good response on that either, but I feel like there have been times where I will have a conversation with somebody and it doesn't go the way that I want it to go. They take offense to something I say when really I'm just trying to convey a point. And so I've had a couple situations where I've had to go back and swallow the pride and go in there and be like, I think I may have communicated this poorly. My intentions are this, this, and this.
I guess with that, there was a time when, on hindsight, I totally see where this person was coming from. But at the moment, I didn't realize it. A specific group of the leadership had just accomplished something pretty impressive. I had to step away for a day to go somewhere else for work, and they had several admissions come. I want to say it was like three. Again, we're not a huge nursing home, so three admissions coming is a real battle. And I wasn't there to help, and they just kind of took it on. And so then to celebrate those individuals, I took them out to a meal the next work day. And there totally was like a fourth person who was in office nearby in leadership who at the time I didn't put that they were as involved with the mission, so I didn't invite them. But this individual certainly felt slighted. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, the boss is inviting everyone to eat but me. I was like, oh, I totally didn't mean to do that. And so that's
Hmm.
one of those things where it just doesn't hurt. Just, think a little bit of how would you feel if you were that person and you see everyone else go out? You might feel kind of
Hmm.
crummy too, or like, I guess they don't like me. And it's
Yeah.
totally not what I was trying to do. I just didn't think about it enough. So I think
Yeah.
that's my easiest way to offend people is if I just don't think about it enough. And comes with
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and it's so hard because like you're running a building of like 100 employees. Everything you do is going to slightly irk somebody. If you acknowledge one person, some person's going to feel slighted.
Everyone's gonna agree with every decision you make, and that the reality is that's how it is. You got to
Yeah.
just make the right decisions, but do your best to make sure those relationships with employees, with patients, with families, with community stakeholders isn't tied to the decisions you make, but your relationship just with them. And then
Yeah.
even when they disagree with you and they're mad at you for whatever reason, you can get past it.
That's smart. One of the times that I feel like you get a lot of just like FaceTime with your department heads is during morning meeting. I'm curious to know. I for a while there, I felt like everybody ran morning meeting the same way that I ran it. But as I'm like talking to more people, it feels like everybody kind of has their way of doing morning meeting. And morning meeting just for everybody is a lot of times at 9 o'clock or 8:30 or 9:30 or whenever in the morning. You'll gather all of your department heads and kind of kick off the day. Right? You'll talk through like, where we're at in terms of census, in terms of clinical care, if a patient needs, extra support, that sort of thing. That's kind of the time to huddle up, right, and talk through it. How do you run morning meeting? What's your routine when it comes to that?
Yeah, I probably have too much fun to start, but I like to not just jump right in right on time. I like to usually take
Yeah.
the first 2 or 3 minutes to kind of just in general, how are people doing, watched a movie or, like who did a thing and kind of talk about that, talk about someone went to the kids' football game, how they do. I like to spend the first few minutes, even though the meeting started doing that, which I don't know, maybe better, Rand, you do that before the meeting starts, but that's usually what I do I don't know, it feels more comfortable that way, a little more natural. Again, it's not like a strategy I'm thinking, it's just kinda how I am. But when you get into it, yeah, it's you just kinda go down the list of all the key situations in the nursing home, and then I'm big on you have to let everyone I don't know, if you're in a meeting, like, you're relevant to anything in that meeting, you might bring a perspective that someone else doesn't have, even if it's not always directly connected to you. So I'm big into letting people speak up, like, if I am talking the whole meeting, I don't think that was a good meeting, you know?
Yeah.
That could have been a nice email then. You need the discussion, and then yeah, I think it's also key kinda with that mindset is, like, every meeting I lead, I mean, most, it's imperative that you have a go around where everyone's like, "Okay, your opinion on" not just your opinion, but, like, what do you have for the team?
Hmm.
What's something that's a challenge you have maybe the team can help you with? And give everyone a chance to speak before you close the meeting. I think that's perfect for not just morale, but also communication and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Half the time, I think the battles in any industry, it just comes down to communication. And I know that's like an easy thing to say, but the right leader just goes the extra mile to not just assume that everyone understands or something's going to get done, but consistently following up and asking about it. It's really basic stuff, but that's the stuff that sinks you and big
Yeah.
mistakes happen.
How do you focus on that? Because I also hear all the time about how communication is so important. How do you prioritize that in your day?
I think it's important to, again, give people a chance to talk to. Being the boss, you don't always realize that people are going to act differently around you than they would maybe with other coworkers. And so they maybe won't feel as compelled to speak unless asked to.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that it's not just, I'm going to say this thing, then leave. It's, I said my part, I said this situation. And I say, what do you think? Or what's on your mind with this? How's so and so doing? You ask these questions to get people to speak and to, chat about it with you. But I think you got to build in systems, right? So
Hmm.
like I talked about, I like to make sure I ask everyone before I close the meeting something. I think that that's a system. So it can't just be, I forgot to do this. It's like, I know that that's part of the routine. So I know I'm satisfying that. I don't know though. A lot of it just comes down to grit and determination too. I know that's
Yeah.
the generic boring answer, but it's unfortunate truth answer that you should be reflecting like, am I communicating well? Do people understand? When I asked them to do this, did the thing happen? Did the thing happen the way I wanted it to? And if not, just do it again. Just ask them again. Don't just give up. 'Cause if you
Yeah.
just give up, that's it.
Yep. I totally agree with you. I think 95% of success as a nursing home administrator is grit and determination, and then the rest is, you'll figure it out along the way. But when it comes to communication, I feel like I really focus on having good communication and prioritizing my communication with certain department heads. I want to make sure that I have good communication with everybody, but especially my director of nursing. My director of nursing needs to know that I am there. That's your entire clinical operations. I prioritize communication with them.
No, that's
So,
a really good point. What the DON and the administrator, if they're not on the same page with key things, like everyone's gonna know. And
yeah,
it's going to impact so many things in the nursing home. Like, I
yeah,
don't think you can be successful long term, like, without flash in the pan moments if it's
yeah,
clear that either the administrators or DONs are weak in their position or they don't get along or they disagree, obviously, on fundamental issues. Like they gotta be a united front. And yeah, so I think that's right. If you can't always communicate with everyone, can you at least communicate really well with your DON?
yeah,
And if you can do that, that's at least a fundamental start.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit about this, but building culture at your facility. It's a buzzword, it's cliche, all those things. Let's just get past that. Then let's talk about building culture at the facility.
It's cheesy for a reason.
Yeah. It's just one of those things that's, like, so important. It makes it so you can retain that top talent. It makes it so people are good team players, right? Like, those sorts of things. But it's like, people don't talk about this. It is impossible to build culture, right? Like, it doesn't happen in a week or a day or a month, right? It takes so long to build it. And I'm just curious to know, like, you talked about how in morning meeting, your first little bit is you just talk to your team, which I think is awesome. And I think that that goes to show that you care about them personally, which goes to show the culture that you're trying to build. What are the other tips and tricks from Clint Nielson on building culture?
Again, you got to recognize it's if you're not like a little, I don't know, what's the right word, how to put this? You should feel nervous. You should feel on edge if you're the administrator. It's like a very solemn responsibility, right? Because you're the face for 100, 150, 200 people. You're the example. They're going to look to you. They're going to see you every day. And if they're not seeing you every day, that's a different cultural issue we can get into. They
Yeah,
should be
yeah,
seeing
it's
you every
true.
day.
Yeah,
But if you are clearly stressed or clearly annoyed constantly, or you say one thing, you tell everyone everyone's responsible for answering call lights, and you all the time walk past call lights, people are going to look to you and people are going to do what you allow, what you are doing, right? And what you're tolerating.
yeah,
And so I think a lot of the culture fundamentally starts with you. Like you have to be willing to help, you have to help the CNA, the housekeeper, the nurse. You have to be able to do these things. And if I think you're not doing those things, if you don't ever have to shovel the sidewalk on a Saturday morning, I think there'll always be a little bit of people think you talk a lot, you say a lot of things, but they're not seeing you act on it. And I don't
yeah.
know. Do you want to follow the person who just talks, who doesn't do?
Yeah, yeah. So at my first building, we didn't have a transportation driver, and so I accepted a patient who had dialysis at 5:30 a.m. That was their chair time. And we didn't have a driver, and so instead of assigning the activities director or somebody to take them at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m., I just went and did it every morning. And or not every morning. It was
Every
3 times
other,
a
but
week.
yeah,
I would show up and everybody was like shocked that I was there. And I would walk the halls really quick, just letting everybody know I'm taking so and so on their trip to dialysis. And I'd check in to make sure if they needed anything. And after doing that for like several weeks, the staff started coming up to me and they were like, "Hey, we've never seen an administrator do this. This isn't something that our last administrator did." And they started to just buy in a little bit. They want to know that you're willing to take the reins, do the dirty work if needs be. I think that that's huge. The other thing that jumps to mind when it comes to culture is like time is your friend. Preach the culture every day and then give it time. See what sticks to the wall. Talk about teamwork. Talk about humility. Talk about being a great place to work for the employees, and then just give it time. See what doing that for 2, 3, 4 weeks does, 2, 3, 4 months, and then really evaluate, okay, is it sticking?
yeah, and I think the other thing with it too is, and people always have a negative connotation with this, but for the people who are really in there, I think they appreciate it. It's like holding people accountable. What you allow happens is what's going to end up happening. And when one person is always on time, or like a group, and then one person always isn't, and they get away with it, and they have to do the extra work, and you as a leader don't do anything about it. It makes them wonder, like, why am I, doing everything I can to always be on time and cover for this person. So it's like, yeah, no, no one likes to talk about, like, oh yeah, you want to like get people in trouble or this or that. Like that's not like what it's about.
Yeah,
It's about everyone else who is doing it right, and they deserve to be validated for doing it right and not feel like they're always fighting an uphill battle and they're not getting support. So I think
yeah.
that's important too.
Ah, I love it. I love it. That's resonating with me big time. I feel the accountability thing is like the quickest way to win trust with your team. If you have a top performer on your team and they're having to work with somebody who's not doing their job, it just frustrates them because they want to top perform. They want to be a top performer. They want to get their job done. Holding people accountable is the quickest way to win trust.
100%.
Mic drop. Clint, talk to me about your routines as an admin. What do you do when it comes to you get in the morning? And the way that this question came to be is I feel like there's that saying that either you run the building or the building runs you.
Mm.
How do you manage your day?
Yeah. So at some point before a morning meeting, a good administrator is going to get eyes on like everything. Like you're just going to do a tour, just going to walk around. You're going to say hi to people. You're going to look at patients, right? You're going to make sure that people are happy. People are, things are good. You're going to make sure that the building is clean. You're going to make sure that things are put away properly. I think you got to do that. I think you should do that every day. Just walk around, see everything. You can't manage what you don't know. And then things that are important, but maybe you don't love to do, you should probably put front and say, right now I need to do this no matter what. I wasn't always the best about wanting to like read clinical notes. I'm not clinically trained really, and I don't know. It was sometimes it was a challenge for me to want to do that when there's so many things I wanted to do from maybe a business standpoint or a culture standpoint. But I made that a routine where I would go in and I would look at the notes the nurses wrote from the day before a morning meeting. And I know if I at least did those two things, that's a good general start where I could get a pulse and identify issues. So those are a couple for me. What about for you, Devin?
I was always focused on one of the big three. I was either focused on census or I'll claim financial outcomes. I think those go hand in hand. So I'm going to claim financial outcomes, clinical outcomes, or cultural outcomes. And so whenever I got in the morning, I was always laser focused on that. If it was admissions, and 90% of the time it was admissions, I would come in and I would look through my referral log and just see kind of where I was at. And if I had any admissions coming in that day, I would just line it up so that if they slipped through the cracks, it was not going to be from something that I did. All right, we got 5 minutes left.
All right.
I'm going to end with this question because I think every administrator has their crazy story, like the story that you tell your friends about because it was nuts. Mine is one time I got a call on a Sunday and my director of nursing had a patient that barricaded the room and was smoking next to an oxygen tank. And the
Oof.
director of nursing went into the room and physically took away the lighter, and the patient grabbed a fork that she had stashed under her bed and stabbed my director of nursing in the lip. And the director of nursing, she was like tough as nails. She was just a tough woman. She was way tougher than I was. It was an honor to work with her. But she was like, hey, just FYI, this just happened. I need you to come in. The police are on their way. And I was like, okay,
And then
so I'm coming in on a Sunday. You don't say no to that. I look back at that situation, and I think I've had some stuff that rivals it, but that moment made me really realize that it can get a little crazy in a nursing home. So it's a tough job. What's your moment? Hopefully that breaks the ice enough.
similar thinking of a situation with the patient, you're right. We're getting individuals and tough situations in their life. Maybe they have a dementia or a situation like that impacting a tough situation. Because it's true, nobody wants to be in a nursing home, no matter how good it is. It's people want to be at their home. We
Yep.
want to make it the best we can. But I had an individual we took in that I was warned would be difficult because he has some behaviors associated with dementia. And I remember just telling everyone because there were some reservations about him coming in. I was like, just call me whenever and I will come in and I'll be with this guy. I kind of felt for this guy. No one wanted to admit him. And so there's many times I would be hanging out with him, and as I got to know him, his behaviors were associated with he was a Vietnam veteran. And when you have his maybe memory loss episodes, he would think he was at war. And people couldn't tell that. But just I had spent enough time, I could realize he literally thought he was in the Vietnam War. And so it just really changes how you maybe look at these patients that you're working with every day, that it's so easy to just maybe get frustrated when someone, has a fork stab situation or someone like you talked about, or someone maybe hits a nurse or attempts to hit a resident or things like this or says something terrible. But every, in a way, every behavior is just an unmet need. And so that was one of those ones that always stick with me. Just getting to know, like, yeah, these behaviors really make sense now. He literally thinks he's in a terrible war. So of course
Yeah.
he's getting aggressive and he's shouting things that are unpleasant to hear. Because
Yeah.
I have not been in a war and I can't relate at all. So I
Nor
think
have I.
that's
Yeah.
to me is one of the examples of like of what makes this a field that like I can't get enough of.
Yeah.
Is that one? It is fun, the business and the trying to always have the best foot forward for people and all the random other challenges. But like it's these patients, it's these people in their real lows of their life, and you're just trying to make it the best you can. It's extremely
Yeah.
satisfying. I don't know, I can't imagine a work without doing stuff like that.
How's being a nursing home administrator different than a typical desk job?
Well, you get a lot more steps in for sure.
You get a lot of
And
steps in.
And you can't predict it. You just can't predict it. There's no way, like you said, it's important that you're running your day, but there's just gonna be things thrown at you. So like you don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe you just don't know. Like I could
Yeah.
throw out a million examples. We've talked about some of them. I think that's a good example of how it's not like a desk job at all.
The best advice for a new administrator.
Don't be a know-it-all. If you act like a know-it-all, people aren't gonna want to work with you because you're not gonna know it all, and it's gonna take a while to know it. I've definitely seen people who step in think they're the hot shot. I've had those feelings as I was starting. Yeah, don't be a know-it-all. Listen to everyone. Listen to the CNA, listen to the nurse, listen to all of your department heads and people who've done it before. You're gonna learn a lot. So if you
Yeah.
act like a know-it-all, you're not gonna last. You're gonna get overwhelmed and surprised.
100% agree. What's the worst advice you've ever been given as a new administrator?
Probably don't worry about that. It's always been this way.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
easy for
man.
people just to be like, oh, yep, that's not getting fixed. We've always done it this way. It's like, nope. If
Nope.
it's not right and you know it's not right, you know it's not how it should be ran, like, you gotta change it. You can't just settle.
That's a great answer to this question. Like that's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Oh, that's just how we do it here. Man. Well, Clint, that is our time, but thanks so much for jumping on. That was fun. First episode down.